Collins with Cullman today. I'm out in front of Cullman Middle School with Place 2 school board candidate Susan Hauk. Susan, thanks for meeting me out here.
Thank you.
Now, I did a little research on you before we set up to do this. I was kind of amazed about your background. You've been on boards, you deal with children, your family's had a long history in Cullman. Can you briefly break all that down and tell us about it?
I'll try. My mom was on the city council in Oxford, Alabama for 20 years. My dad was a mayor there. He died in office many years ago. My husband was a city council here in Cullman for 8 years, and my entire family, his and mine, are all educators. I'm not, but they all are. So I come from a background of service to community, educators. I've heard about education and the pitfalls and the joys and the tragedies through all of that, and I feel like having a little knowledge of all of that, as well as being a person with my background of working with kids and families for all these many years, sort of sets me a little bit apart from other candidates and what I can bring to this.
Well, before we started this interview, we did some talking, and I was taken aback by some of the innovative things you're thinking about. Let's start with the first one that got my attention. You're all about having, what I'm going to say, having the school system send functional adults, regardless of their skills or interests, out into the world, right?
I am. The population I work with right now in my real job probably would not be your traditional college student. Most of them have delinquent backgrounds, and in working with them and knowing the kids in Cullman and other systems, I've come to realize that not every kid is a college-bound kid. We have a great AP program. I'm certainly not faulting that. I'm promoting that. I was a college-bound kid, so I think we're well-rounded there. However, not every kid is college-bound. Not every kid is an AP kid. Not every kid even wants to go to college. I think we have an obligation to all our students, beginning even in elementary years, to expose them to other potential careers. We've got a huge industrial base in Cullman County. We have farmers. We need to be exposing all our kids to all of the opportunities available to them as they approach those high school years, so that they can make informed choices about what might be best for them. I think we've got an untapped resource in our business and industrial community to help kids explore what they might really be interested in and what they might really want to do post high school, as we prepare kids for that next step, whether it be joining the workforce or going on to college. I don't know why, as we were talking earlier, I don't know why we could not go back and at least look into the possibility of something similar to what in my day was called distributive education, or the co-op program, where kids who are more interested in learning technical skills could actually go work, go job shadow, so that they can get a feel of what it's really like. We have our college and career program, our technical training program, the Career Center, that does a great service, and it's a wonderful program. I've toured it, I've been there, I know what they do, but I think we can take it beyond that and expand our resources. And at the same time, when we start approaching our industrial community to join forces, we're also getting a stronger stakeholder base in our community. We have people who are invested, maybe not monetarily, but certainly in terms of we've got to crank out kids who are ready for that next step in their life to join the workforce or go on to college.
Makes sense. Now, let's move on to another topic that fascinated me, and we'll be brief because this is kind of inside school board baseball. But this election cycle, all the seats are open to be replaced or the incumbents to stay in. You have an idea that will minimize the impact on the transition, don't you?
Well, I don't think it's a new idea or necessarily started with me, but I certainly haven't heard it in the last few years. I don't know why we don't look at staggering the terms of the members of the school board. That way it would prevent an entire school board set of incumbents from being put out of office or resigning from office or leaving office, choosing not to run, however way you want to look at it. And we have 5 fresh new faces on there at one time that have no continuity from what's been happening and what the issues are and what the strategies are over the next several years. I think we need to, and I know it's a process that involves legislative approval, but I think it would be worth the conversation to have among the other board members to talk about staggered terms. And I realize that when you've put time and energy and money into a campaign to win a place on the school board for 4 years, the idea of stepping down early might not appeal to everyone, but I, for one, would be certainly willing to take a lesser term limit to work towards staggering the terms of office. I think if it were proposed in a good way, that the community understood it, that the legislature understood it, and that it could be seen as a positive step, I don't know why we can't have that conversation and move forward with such an idea so that we're not left with the possibility that every incumbent is gone from the school board.
Well, it seems like it's worth thinking about from a continuity and stability standpoint.
Absolutely.
And if you're willing to be a sacrificial lamb, that's a gold star for you.
Well, can I add one thing?
Sure.
You know, progress and good things don't come without compromise, and somebody's got to do it. I'm not trying to be a sacrificial lamb, but I certainly would be willing to take that step if it was for the improvement of our overall functioning as a system.
Gotcha. Let me touch on one last thing. We're
Sure.
starting to run a little bit long, but I think what you're saying is worth talking about. Extracurricular activities and how to fund those, how to show some balance and equanimity across all the possible extracurricular activities. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Several people running for school board and those currently serving on the school board have had kids in extracurricular activities. Those are vitally important to the overall well-being of every one of our students. Very often those extracurriculars are the hook that keep kids invested in school. However, having served on one of the athletic booster clubs, having a kid that has played sports, talking to other booster club officers and coaches, we need to look at how those extracurriculars are funded, not just the sports programs, but our fine arts programs and every other program, to maybe look at a pro rata system where, depending on how many students are involved in that extracurricular, the board looks at the funding resources available, and it shouldn't be the lowest thing on the priority poll, but we need to look at how those situations are funded so that every kid has every opportunity we can give them to participate.
Makes sense. Now, we are running out of time. I'm going to have to have you do this in a quick fashion. Looking at the Cullman City School System, what do you see as its greatest strength, greatest advantage?
Of course, our students, our families, our administrators, our teachers, everybody has said that, and I echo that. However, I think our community as a whole is the resource that we have left to tap. And I really think that we can bring in stronger stakeholders among our entire community to support what we're trying to do here in Cullman City Schools and Cullman County Schools to make everybody be an investor in our school system for the future of our community.
Makes sense. Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. What do you see as the biggest weakness or challenge facing the school system right now?
Well, I'm sure you want to hear that it's space and that sort of thing, and that is a challenge. But I think we need to be creative in how we approach those problems. I think there are a lot of possibilities that we haven't talked about. I'm not going to go into them here. A challenge, I think, again, will be to use the resources we have in the most equitable and educated way we can to serve every student, regardless of what their interest is, what their need is, because every kid has their own set of special needs.
And that brings us back to what we talked about in the very beginning. It's kind of a full circle. One last question, and I like to ask this because it's fun.
Okay.
You are in a competitive race. In fact, this is the only race in all the municipal elections that have 3 different candidates. Many experts and non-experts, such as myself included, think this might end in a runoff. What are you doing to go out and get votes and get you over the top here?
Nothing really unique from anybody else. Knocking on doors, taking advantage of every forum offered to me to put my message out there, put my face out there, my voice out there, my ideas out there. I certainly don't relish the idea of a runoff. That's the last thing that I would like to do.
Well, you wouldn't be alone. I'm going to let you guess how much you think it costs to do a single runoff election.
Upwards of $25,000.
Probably closer to $30,000, and
Okay.
I verified that number. Now I'm going to give you I'm giving you a pop quiz here at the end. Historically, do you know the amount of people that typically come out for a single runoff election in the city of Cullman to vote?
12.
It's higher than that. although that made sense when you first said it. But it's
That's
a little
my
higher
favorite number, so I just took a stab.
It's roughly 500 people.
Yeah, I knew it would be very small.
And if you do the math, that's $60 a vote. So a runoff election is expensive and be a tough go.
Well, I don't think any of the three of us want to run off. There's a part of me that would rather lose outright than be in a runoff for the sake of the community, the financial aspect, and just the time and the energy it takes. I'm ready to move on with this. That's what I would like, but I'm certainly not going to throw in the towel at this point. So we'll see what happens next Tuesday, August 23rd, and just go from there.
Susan, I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you,
It's been very
Tim.
informative.
Thanks.